I messaged AP from my wife's phone and found out P2. Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss another cheating story goes live. I posted my story a couple of weeks ago. I received lots of helpful advice and also some vitriol in the chat function. I read all the replies but could not respond to all of them due to time. I ignored the abuse. There are some strange people out there, no idea what your agenda is, but it's water off a duck's back to me. To recap, the timeline is not exact but the story is. We have been together for over 30 years, we started dating at high school. 2 years ago my wife and I were going through a rough patch and she had an affair. D-Day was 12 months ago at the start of lockdown. Unbeknown to my wife, I read some of their messages. It appeared as though the physical affair was over but they were still in contact. I later discovered that he had finished the physical affair 7 months prior to D-Day, probably because my WS had fallen in love with him and he was never going to leave his wife. She was upset and hurt that he had dumped her, especially as he had told my wife that he loved her. They remained friends and continued to message each other. My wife told him that she could not get him out of her head. This time last year I had never heard of Reddit, I did not know who to ask for help or advice. I know my methods are a bit messed up, but my cunning plan was to try and get the whole truth about the affair and determine if our marriage could be saved. Not an easy thing to do when you cannot believe a word a cheater says. My wife could not see the AP, so I assumed she would contact him using her phone to tell him that I knew about their affair. For the next 6 months, whilst we were supposedly trying to fix things, I could without my wife's knowledge see their messages. Some brief highlights are as follows. They both lied to each other and they both blamed each other for the affair. He said their friendship crossed the line and he regretted what they did. My wife never said she regretted the affair. He cherished their moments together but also wanted to try and forget it ever happened, an oxymoron? My wife told him that she hated him and that he had used her. He denied this, but other times she said that she missed him, also contradictory. She said that she was broken and she could not live with the hurt she had caused me, so at times she did display some signs of remorse. On a number of occasions she said that she would not be able to see him again and she was not going to contact him ever again. A few days later she would message him. During these 6 months, I got myself into great physical shape, I had there was hysterical bonding. My wife told me that she had made a huge mistake, she wanted a future with me, I meant the world to her, she had fallen back in love with me. I asked her if she could go back in time and change things, what would she do differently? Her reply was to not let a good friendship turn into an affair and fix things between us before the affair started. She told me that she would accept any consequences but begged me not to tell our children what she had done. Our children do not deserve to be hurt. The truth was she did not want them to hate her. On the plus side, my WS did not say anything derogatory about me to the AP, at least not from the messages I have read, but she must have said stuff about our marriage to him previously. He said things like, I hope you can correct the things that were wrong between you, I hope you can move forward, etc. On the negative side, my WS told him that I loved her and she was going to be okay, presumably because she thought I was not going to leave her, but she never said to the AP that she loved me. At one point she got angry with the AP and said all I need is my children. She never said that she needed me or loved me. 6 months ago, I thought reconciliation was going to be impossible. I rang a lawyer to discuss my options. My wife eavesdropped on some of the conversation. I don't know how much she heard, but this was the wake-up call she obviously needed. At this point her attitude changed and she finally broke off contact with the AP. I set some boundaries and consequences. The main one being, no contact under any circumstances, otherwise I will divorce her. She agreed to all my conditions. Given all the messages I had read between them, I was doubtful that she would not contact him again, but for 5 months she maintained NC and things seemed to be going in the right direction between us. A few weeks ago, my wife discovered from a mutual friend of theirs that the AP has an incurable disease. I thought she would contact him and sure enough she has done. She has betrayed my trust yet again. The messages were innocent enough to begin with. She sent him positive thoughts, she hoped the treatment would be a success, but then she said get better soon and look forward to seeing you soon. And the final dagger into my broken heart. WS, one last thing. Do you regret meeting me? AP, no. WS, good, me neither. That's all folks. I am done with her. There is nothing left worth fighting for. I know divorce is going to cause me and our children hurt and financial hardship. I know she has mental issues, but she is not willing to get help and I cannot force her. I know there is no point wasting any additional time trying to understand her actions, but I still wonder how she could do this to me and our children. I am going to speak to a lawyer again, this time without her knowing, and get her served. I hope to get joint custody of our children. The starting point for the split of our financial assets will be 50-50, but I want to try and get more than this by hook or by crook. I will be receiving some inheritance once the house of my deceased relative is sold. I also have Bitcoin that I purchased a few years ago, and the value of this has increased to a nice amount of money. I also have a large pension pot. Is it possible to prevent my STBXW getting her hands on the proceeds? Here are some best comments from our community. My wife's AP was a crusty older guy, in his 50s, she was 36, he wasn't good looking and had clearly not ever put much effort into his body. He's not fat, but he had man breasts. He also didn't own his own home and worked in insurance. He also ditched his wife of 20 years and his 2 teenage children and moved out of their place, leaving them to fend for themselves. Wife hadn't worked in years, after the first night he spent with my wife. The only other thing they had in common is that they were both big drinkers, whereas I rarely drink, I just don't like it anymore, plus the martial arts tournaments I compete in require quite a lot of diet management leading up to them. So, he was basically a dropkick with a nothing life, but I saw some of the messages they were sending and he was BSing her with stuff about taking her around the world, and going to live in Tahiti, etc., and I reckon the affair fog, coupled with those lies from him, hoodwinked my wife. It all went up in flames only a couple of months after she moved out of our place. I still can't fathom why on earth she would choose to have an affair with such a turd of a person, inside and out. I also really hope I run into him in the street one day, as I really want to tell him what a poor excuse for a human he is, ditching his family and then actively working to break up someone else's marriage. Surprising number of WS do downgrade then upgrade. The downgrades being downgrades have to make up by creating a fantasy world for WS. On the other end, WS want to feel in love again, want all that attention. They feel abandoned from BS and they think of their marriage as mistake. They want to get out. Unfortunately, most WS suffer from low self-confidence and negative body image even if they look like models. So they rush to anyone throwing them a bone and willing to spend time in creating their made-to-order fantasy world. I am curious, what happened after your WS broke up with AP? Did she try to come back? Do you have kids? We've got 3 kids, they are 4, 6 and 9, and we separated about 20 months ago, after trying therapy etc. After the affair went up in flames, she then put pressure on me to either make a go of things or to settle up financially, and I was a bit shocked that she wanted to make a go of things. But then a couple of days later, after I had had a think about it, she said she would only make a go of things if I admitted that I had Asperger's syndrome and committed to getting regular personal counseling for it, as she had been researching and she had concluded that I must have Asperger's, and that was the reason she didn't feel loved in our relationship and had to have an affair. I don't have Asperger's or anything like it, so it was all a bit of a head-scratcher. I obviously said no, that I thought it would be best to just settle up financially and not make a go of it. Within a couple of months of that, she was in another full-on relationship, while I'm still just focusing on myself, and don't feel remotely like being close with someone else at all. It all sounds a bit crazy, but this claim of Asperger's is actually low scale compared to other things she did and said during the marriage. There are more to come. Find out the update of this story, check our channel or the description. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.